this is Tishia from Meadows and Mortar by Tishia, and I am here on the Paint Couture page, and today we are going to be making that broiler mash bread box. So as you can see, I'm starting this off with just a plain brown bread box. I'm trying to give it a good clean. I used Crackle Kit and then some water to clean that off. Then I'm taking the Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer in gray, and I'm just giving it all a good coat. Once that dries, I come in with one more coat to give it a nice even finish all the way across. Now, there are different types, different colors of primers that you can use, and white primer works really well, especially underneath decoupage, but I like to use gray. I use gray for almost everything, so that's what I used on this. This is a blocking primer and a binding primer. So it's going to kill any of those tannins that are going to try to bleed through, any of that nasty brown gunk that's going to try to come through my finish, and it's also going to adhere to the piece well. So I'm going to have a good functional piece that will last somebody a lifetime. You saw me do just a rough cut of my decoupage paper, and then now I'm using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard to adhere my paper. Now, I would also like to note that the paper that I'm using is from Recycled, and it is a nice thin paper. I believe that it's an 18-pound paper. And what I like to do with that is I like to take a water mister bottle and spray the back side of it. And what that is going to do is that's just going to release the fibers in the paper. It's going to make them stretch out a little bit more so that whenever it reacts with my top coat that I just now put on there, it's not going to cause as many wrinkles because it's already going to be stretched out, so it's not going to freak out once that it gets in contact with that wet top coat. Because this is so irregularly shaped, you're going to see me taking my scissors and I'm just going to snip and cut just a little bit to be able to get it to fit into all of my corners so that I don't have much excess paper on there. I'm sure that there are more precise ways that you can cut this to be able to get it in there, but you know, this works for me. This is what I tend to do. So you can see there's little flaps and overhangs, so I'm just taking my scissors, I'm snipping that down, and then I use that top coat below it, and then I mash my paper into it, and then you'll see me come in just a second with another layer of top coat over top of all of my paper. And what that's going to do is that's just going to sandwich it all onto the piece. So instead of just being paper on top of this piece, it's actually going to be like melded into the piece, and it's going to become a part of the bread box. I mean, you would really have to sand pretty hard to be able to get this off of there once that this Extreme Guard dries. Now, if you've never used Extreme Guard before from Paint Couture paint, it is excellent. So this stuff, it goes on so smooth, it self-levels beautifully, it stays adhered really nicely. It is one of my favorite top coats, and if you would like to try it or any of the products that I'm going to be using from Paint Couture paint today, then I will put a link in the description box so that you can get that. It's not going to be any extra money to you if you decide to use my affiliate link. It's just going to give you access to the product, and it's going to let Paint Couture know that you got that product because of a video that you saw from me. So you can see that I just took that one tiny little strip of that, the net 100 pounds, took that and put it on the front there. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just sandwiching that in, putting more of that top coat on top of it. That's really going to set it in place, and then once that it dries, it's going to become part of the actual piece. Now, for this part right here, I did not cut this. Now, you could cut this to size if you want on the bottom, but all that I cut was the sides of it. The reason why is because you see those little grooves on the inside where those slats are, the part that rolls up. I want to make sure that I have enough room on the bottom to be able to fit inside of those little grooves, and you'll see what I'm saying. So I'm putting my top coat on there. You can see that I've already took my mister bottle and misted the back of that, so my paper is going to be nice and pliable. So I'm just taking the tips of my fingers very lightly and trying to get it inside of all of those grooves. Because if I don't get it inside of the grooves well, whenever I go to push that roller part up, it's going to catch on the top, and then it's just going to rip my paper off, and it's going to leave little dings and tears in it. This is going to make it look much more professional, much more finished, and it's going to look like the piece actually came like this. So I usually start from the top and then work my way down, but you can do it however you like. You can do it in sections from left to right, top to bottom, bottom to top, whatever you would like to do. This is just what works for me, and this is what I do most of the time, is start from top and then work my way down. Sometimes you just have to use the pads of your fingers to kind of smooth everything out. There are actually decoupage tools out there that are like a little piece of plastic, and then it has a felt covered end on the edge of it, and then you can use that to flatten it out. But 9 times out of 10, I use my fingers. I can feel the bubbles with my fingers better. I know how much pressure to use with my fingers, and that's just what always works for me. So once that I get it to the very bottom, then I just take my top coat, put it over top of all of it, and I want to make sure that I'm putting it on lightly on this part because I don't want to gum up that roller part, the little slats right there. I want this to be movable. I still want this to be a functional bread box for somebody. If you gum all of that up in there with too much product, then you're never going to be able to get that thing to open and close. I thought about using more of the decoupage on the side of it, but I decided not to. All I wanted to do was just the front and the top part, and then you'll see me lay it over the lips of the top section of that. And I will do it the same exact way that I did the front. I'm going to sandwich it all in there after I mist it with some water, flex it over, then I'll let it dry, and then I'll get rid of all of the excess. Now with the excess, you can either use some sandpaper, or you can take a razor blade and just razor off the ends of it, just whatever you want to do. Now you'll see I accidentally tore a piece of it right there, and that's okay. I just took another little piece of my paper and I put it in there, and whenever you look at it now, once that it's dry, it's seamless. You can't even tell that I screwed it up. So you can see with me that after it's dried, I'm just using some sandpaper and trying to get the edges of the top part off, and then I'm taking a razor blade around the bottom of it. So now I'm going to use Paint Couture in the color Abyss. This is a nice deep navy blue, and I'm going to put this all over the piece. Now I'm going to be honest with you, whenever I put this on, I didn't know exactly what direction that I was going to go in. Once that I got the blue on, I was like, I'm not sure about this. So I decided to use Paint Couture's Crackle. So what you do is you put step 1 on, you let it sit there for a little while, 30 minutes or so, an hour. Let it get good and tacky. Once that it's tacky, you come in with step 2. This is step 2 that you see me putting over top of the step 1. I actually put this on a little bit quicker than what I should have, but you know, do as I say, not as I do. So follow the instructions on the bottle, you'll be fine. Once that I put this on there, then I let this dry overnight, and I got some really nice crackles in it. So I used Paint Couture's Barn Red, and I just lightly put it over top of this, use a little bit of water to thin it down, and then I'll wipe it back so that you can still see that blue under there, but then I'm really settling that red inside of those crackles. But as I was looking at this, I was like, this is making this more purple than it is red and blue. I mean, red and blue does make purple, but I was really hoping for more of a, differentiation there. So then I come in with Paint Couture in the color Gustav. Now, keep in mind, this has had hours and hours to dry. I didn't just do this over top of the wet paint. You just can't see my dry time in this. So I take that Gustav, I put it on the side of it, and then I take my water bottle and I spray some water on it to thin it out. And then I'm just going to take a paper towel, and then I'm going to get rid of any excess that I want to get rid of. So then now I have some of the red settling in the crackles. I still have the blue under there, and then I have the white that's going to be settling in some of the crackles too, along with it being on the top. So then as I was getting this part on there, I was like, oh, this is really starting to shape up. This is looking more like the rest of the pattern inside of the broiler mash. So I just continued to do this, toggle back and forth, decide what I like, what I don't like. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Guys, it's just paint. If you screw it up, you can always strip it back off of there. It's not that big of a deal. So I decided that I didn't like the lines that were coming through there whenever I was wiping it off. So you saw I just sprayed some of that water on there, and then I'm just kind of giving it a little love rub to try to get off the excess of it. So you can still see the white, you can see the other colors peeking through. It looks a little more antique-y now, a little more grungy, but it's given me the effect that I want. After that, I made a little rooster mold, and then I painted it in the Gustav. And then I take Paint Couture in their light brown sugar glaze, and then I just rub it all over my little rooster. Or I think that one may be a hen. Yeah, that one's a hen. So I just take it, I put it on there, and then I'm going to use a paper towel, and I'm just going to dab it off. This is going to give it an antique look, and it's going to settle down and define those lines and edges and stuff, the details of the mold, a lot more than if it were just plain. Then I just take some Type Bond Quick and Thick, and then I set it there on the top of it, so I just have that little chicken just peeking there at the top. Then I come in with Paint Couture's Van Dyke Brown Glaze. Now, this Van Dyke Brown is a darker color than that light brown sugar. This is going to give more of an authentic, rusty kind of look. So I'm not really doing this all over, but I'm still controlled in the way that I'm putting it on there. So you saw that I put it around the edges. I use my water bottle to spray up there at the top, and then I put it on there, and then I let it drip down so it kind of looks like rust coming off of it. Then I wanted to add a little bit more, so I was like, this doesn't need to just come from the top. This should probably come from the sides too. So then I did the same thing. I'm just giving it an aged look, an antique look, kind of like rust is falling down from it. I just continue doing that on the front of it, just on the very top, and then like actually where the roller part comes, so it looks cohesive all the way all over the piece. It's not just on the sides of it. Then the last thing that we're going to need to do is our top coat. So I am going to come in with that Paint Couture's Extreme Guard again. You can use the flat, you can use the satin, whatever you like. I'm using flat in this one, and I'm using one of the Paint Couture brushes to put it on. These brushes are really, really wonderful. They're durable, they're nice and soft. They will give you a nice, beautiful finish every single time. So you only see me put one coat on this, but I did use 2 coats on it. But just remember, make sure that you're going lightly on the front part that rolls up, because you don't want to get that to gum up in there any. And if you're not already following the Paint Couture's page, make sure you do that. Give them a follow. If you're not following me on my YouTube page, which is Meadows and Mortar by Tishia, then give me a follow too. I would love for you guys to stick around so that we can create together and we can learn from each other. And then the last thing we need to do is just put our hardware on. And then I take Paint Couture's Luxe Metallic in the color Bronze, and I'm just lightly feathering this over the top of that hardware piece so that I can really tie it all in and it looks nice and new and clean. And guys, here is the finished product, and I really hope that you like it. This is a nice, fun, country style. If this is your thing, then please follow this tutorial. Do your own. Tag me in it. If you do your own, I would love to see your all's creations. And as always, if you need any of the Paint Couture products, then look in the description below and you will have a link. And guys, we can't wait to see you all next time. Thanks for watching.